This is Dune Talk, a DuneNewsNet.com production. Join us now for the latest Dune news, reactions, and lively discussions.
Hey everyone. So as you're watching or listening to this, Dune will be released in less than 1 week in the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, China, dozens of other countries. So we'll have the opportunity to watch the movie, or in some cases, rewatch the movie. So it's really exciting. Going to be a great time. Excited to see like the reactions of all the people in North America, South America, other countries that are coming out. And let's also mention like there are some countries that will have to wait a bit longer, including Australia. So our thoughts go out to all of you there. Like hopefully we can keep you entertained a bit with this show and with the other covers that we're going to be doing even after the movie comes out. So this is Marcus Gabriel for DuneNewsNet.com here with Garin.
It's Garin Granada at DuneCompanion.com on Twitter. So come join me there. But I'm filled with jealousy. I'm just going to say it right off the top of the bat, but I'm going to be composed and I'm going to be respectful. So some of us got a gift and some of us didn't, but it's about a week and a few days away. So I'll make it.
That is very, very true. This is Johnny Sobchak. And yeah, there's someone amongst us has something to talk about, but I'm just, counting the days, but not trying to focus too much on it. It is right around the corner. So really not much waiting left at all to do. And that's the good news.
Simon Dowdy here. I am not the someone. I wonder who it could be. I'm jealous, very jealous, but less than a week from the time this shows up. So let's talk, boys.
Yeah, so let's just go straight into it. We're getting into some movie news.
Dune movie news.
Marcus, how's your week going?
Well,
you want to talk about the sandworm in the room?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and address that sandworm. So yes, I have seen the movie. So I saw it yesterday. There was a screening in Seattle, so got the opportunity to see that on the big screen. And I posted about that on Twitter earlier today. Like I was just blown away. I loved everything about it. It was an immersive experience. It's just, we had seen a lot in the promo materials. So we all of us saw the IMAX exclusive preview. We've seen all the promos, of course, because we're doing the show and we're talking about everything that's coming up. So we have seen a lot, but the movie is so much more than that. Like there was so much to absorb in that 2.5 hours. I was like trying to keep notes so that I could refer to later and keep track of everything. It's just like such a like everything, like the visuals, the audio, like just trying to absorb as much as possible. But I'm definitely going to have to see this many more times and will want to see this multiple times going forward. But like I'm sure like all of you guys are gonna love it.
Hey, Marcus, my question, and I don't think this is a spoiler question, is I've heard it's dense. There's a lot of material to take in. Is that what makes you want to go back and see it a second time, or is it the visual and otherworldly experience of the film?
Yeah, I'd say it's a bit of both. I mean, like it's visually, audio, everything is like a feast for the senses. So like there's so much coming in. Like every scene, like you can step back. You're thinking, okay, like like I hear something in the audio, and then I see this detail there. Like for example, we saw that in the breakfast scene about like the paintings and all these little details, and you're picking up on all of that. So there's a lot of visual stimulation and like trying to take in everything that's going on, but the story itself, that there is a lot going on, and like in the conversations that are happening, like and I won't spoil this, but like everybody knows that this is part one of the book basically, and they're adapting that, and there are major characters that are not appearing in part one yet, but there are references to those to those characters, and you already get a sense for what type of people they are, and like how powerful they are, and like what their perspective are. So yeah, there's just so much to pick up from in terms of people's motivations, in terms of like the body language, the plots. But at the same time, I did have the feeling that it was accessible. So I think even for people who don't know the story, that there is definitely some amount of exposition, and I'm going to talk about it in my review, because I had thoughts about like how they handle that. But I think with the way that they handle that, people will be able to understand that, you know, this is the story of these two rival houses, and they've been rivals for hundreds of years, and now, you know, things are coming to a head on the planet of Arrakis, that the conflict is going to play out there, and you understand about how Paul's role in all of this, and then of course the Fremen people, like how we're going to see more of their perspective in the movie.
Without going in full spoiler mode, can you tell us your favorite scene or like the best performance you think?
The scene in the still tent. So I don't want to go into a lot of that, but like that was like, when I think back, you know, I probably have to watch the movie a couple more times, but that scene like stood out the most to me. There's just so much in that scene in terms of what's happening there, but also what's happening beyond that scene, like all in that moment. So that's definitely my favorite, and it is a key point, right? Because when you think about the Dune novel, part one ends at the still tent, so it's sort of the climax of the story at that point. Favorite performances, I guess it's going to be no surprise, but this film was focusing on the characters of Paul and Jessica, and I feel like Timothée Chalamet and Rebecca Ferguson, they just hit it out of the park. Like their emotional connection, the relationship between the two of them, like how Rebecca, like Ferguson, like how you could tell her character was feeling the things that Paul was feeling. It was just like really touching performance. But I just have to emphasize that like all around, like all these performances, I was impressed. I didn't feel that like anybody like gave a less good performance, if I can say that.
I don't even know. I don't even know if I have anything to ask you, just because there's so much I could ask. Geez. Oh, here's a good one, and it's not really too spoilery. The score, because you had listened to it so much already, I'm curious how you thought it worked on screen, of course, in tandem with the the images.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I talked about the score earlier when they did the review episode, and I really enjoyed the music. I was saying that I even enjoyed the sketchbook more, because I felt that that's something that you can listen to like on the go and like isolated from the movie. And like the score, I really love how unique it is. It's maybe not something I would listen to it all the time, but in terms of like the score of this movie, it was perfect. It like really helped like immerse me into this situation. Like we really are like 20,000 years in the future. Like the cultures are different, the sounds are different, like the mysticism of it, because you have the sense of the Bene Gesserit, and also so some of the other religious organizations there, and how they're influencing the music. So I felt it just came perfectly together with the visuals and accompanied what was going on the screen. And we've heard people talk about before about the aspect of leitmotifs in the movie, and I don't know if you like look at a strict definition, if that's what you'd say, but you definitely did feel that, because when the Atreides arrive, there's a certain song that's playing, like you probably know which one in the soundtrack that is, and then later on in battle, when they're referencing the Atreides, that same music plays. So I did feel like, and we talked about that earlier with the Bene Gesserit, like how the scene with Duke Leto and Lady Jessica, when Leto says the Bene Gesserit, you hear that theme. So there is that sort of pattern throughout the movie, and I really felt it added a lot. So yeah, I mentioned this, like I think every aspect of the movie just came together perfectly, and the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Man, well, I would love to just dissect your brain on this for hours and hours, but I'll leave it at that, at least for myself, and I just can't wait to to see it again. How many tickets do you have already, or have you decided you're going to go see?
Yeah, so I have potentially like one or two tickets lined up, depending on like what happens in the workplace. And yeah, let's maybe mention that. So you saw some news about HBO Max as well. I know that we're not going to talk about like the details, but like about the timing.
Yeah. So there was a notification that went out for the HBO Max app, and this evening, actually, just shortly before the show, and basically it said Dune is coming, and there's special previews for HBO Max, and that means just essentially it will be on the streaming service, not on Friday, not at midnight Friday, 3 a.m. East Coast or whatever, but actually at 6 p.m. on Thursday, October 21st, coinciding with the first screenings in theaters here in the US. So I believe they did this with the Suicide Squad as well. I think, and I actually think as far as Thursday, even movie showings at the theater, I think that Suicide Squad was the only one that got that this year. But yeah, so that's just another cool thing. Early access, it'll be nice. I tweeted this, but some people were complaining about it, or at least a couple people that I saw, they were like, wow, they're just really, trying to get at Villeneuve, and they're putting out even earlier on HBO Max. There's like no exclusivity at all. And to that, I just kind of think, I think anyone that's going and already has a ticket to see and wants to see Dune Thursday night is not going to be dissuaded by HBO Max having it early as well. I think that's just like an added bonus. And then if someone happens to see on HBO Max that night that maybe doesn't know about Dune or isn't really that familiar with it, they might just throw it on, and it's a marginal difference. But I think it's going to be a benefit to me personally. So I can't complain. I think a lot of people will probably get some benefit out of it, and will already either have tickets or are still going to go anyway.
Yeah, and as I was mentioning earlier, I feel like I have to, and I want to see this movie multiple more times. So the fact that I've now seen it in cinema, because actually it was getting tricky for me to find a ticket on Thursday because of like, I wanted to see it in IMAX, and there weren't any theaters near me, and on a Thursday evening it will be difficult to go outside of the city. So now that I've seen it on the big screen, I'm going to feel comfortable watching it on HBO Max on Thursday, then going back to the cinema on Friday. And then hopefully like another session the next week, as mentioned, like with some other people. So yeah, like definitely plan to see this many more times. And I can guarantee you, like if you're watching the show, be prepared to watch this movie more than once for sure.
Well, that was going to be one of my next questions. Is the next time we go to a theater, or are you doing HBO Max next time? So there you go. I think you answered it. And I think a couple of people were probably interested in knowing, are you going to do theater, HBO Max? So I'm curious to know what you think after you saw it in the theater and then HBO Max. It's like a sandwich. You got bread, you got the meat, and that is the HBO Max, and then you got more bread. Hey, they weren't kidding when they said same day release, I guess, on their taglines for those movies.
And we've already talked about that, like the past episode. So like we're not going to retread that ground. But yeah, so yeah, really excited. I'm gonna be writing my detailed review for the site next week, and of course on the following shows we're going to be going into every little detail. So look forward to some special episodes coming up in the week after. So with that said, we do want to cover some other movie news as well this episode. So the first story that I wanted to look back at is, like, last week we did get our final trailer. So Garin and myself, we were recording a special episode with Jack Rita talking about the Gale Force 9 Dune board game, and the trailer dropped at that time, so we already gave our views. So let's hear from you first, Johnny. Like, looking at this final trailer, what did you think about it? Compared to the other trailers?
Yeah. So this is our third and final. And this was something that I think I'd alluded to on the show potentially.
Yeah.
That there's a possibility that they were going to do this just because we were building toward the US release and the release in many other markets as well. Tickets were on sale. And oftentimes with these big movies, they might drop, one final, like, kind of buzzy trailer just to kind of get people's attention. And sure enough, they did. I wasn't sure if they were, but it did drop. And I really liked it. I mean, I have really liked all three of these trailers. for different reasons, and because they kind of try to do their own thing and they're not necessarily copying the other one or trying to do, appeal in the exact same way as like maybe other blockbuster like trailers would. And it's hard to say because I mean, that first initial trailer is always going to be special because it's like the first time you ever get to see any footage. And then of course we got the trailer after us went to go see the IMAX preview. So we were the first to see that, and then we got to see a little bit more. And then this one is really just kind of like the final push, like into people's faces, people that might not be familiar with Dune or maybe have been paying attention until just now. It says, hey, Denis Villeneuve, acclaimed director, this is coming on this date. This is going to be the next, Star Wars, the next Lord of the Rings. And it really presses upon the characters, the narrative, and it highlights action. It highlights, the kind of grand, heroic kind of aspects to the story that we all are familiar with, but maybe we'll play slightly differently in the actual movie. And so I think it just strikes a different tone than the other two. And I think that is a good thing because you don't want to just repeat the same thing over again. And it also, I think, is important with the trailer, especially at this stage in the marketing, is it didn't show too much. It didn't show too much more. We got a lot of familiar scenes, a lot of familiar shots, but sprinkled in some new stuff to get your attention, especially as fans. We've been paying attention to literally every single thing. So to get just a little bit new goodies was a pleasant surprise as well. And I really liked the visual that they were using. I think it's the one that they're using during the credits of the movie as well, or at least something similar to it. And I liked the poll quote they used. I thought that was, kind of attention grabbing, especially for like a general like audience member. And of course, I always like to see Villeneuve get some attention in these things too. So yeah, I thought it all really worked well together. The music was nice. It wasn't Hans Zimmer's score. It was just some, more traditional trailer music. But yeah, I think this was a good little drop in it. I mean, it had people talking that day and millions of views on YouTube and whatnot. So job done, I would say.
I don't think I was blown away as much as the other ones because I feel it's more scenes that we've seen just mashed up in a different way. But I like that it gives us the story. I do like that quote, "This is the next Star Wars, Lord of the Rings." But in my inner voice was like, well, this was before Star Wars. I don't know what you guys are talking about. But I get it. It's great. It's a really good final trailer to push, hey, remember, this is coming out. Here's the Cliff Notes version of what you need to know. It's not so abstract like the other ones trying to put the piece together. I feel like you can actually tell the story. But apparently we haven't seen anything, according to Marcus. So that makes me happy. That makes me really happy that even with all the footage that we've seen, I feel like in the past month and a half, marketing has been everywhere. And I was having a conversation with someone and they're like, oh, I don't think they're doing a good job with marketing. I was like, what? What are you talking about? You're insane. Like, I feel like Warner Brothers has spent more money on marketing on this than Suicide Squad, King Kong, any of their big like summer hits. But I liked it. I was just like, cool. Once again, can I just get the movie? But it was good.
Yeah, and speaking of the final trailer, so I talked about it last week. Like at that point, I really liked the trailer, but I wasn't sure if it was my favorite trailer. But I'm still wouldn't say it, but it's definitely growing on me. Like as I've seen it, I think what Johnny mentioned, it's that final push. Like it's not the music from the film, but it's like a really epic movie that music that invites people, like, okay, like this is something you have to say. So yeah, that definitely they did a good job on that. Garin, so I know that we talked about this already last week. Did you have any further thoughts, like a little bit of over a week later, or is there any other stuff that's come out recently that really caught your eye?
Honestly, I agree with Simon. There's been so much marketing material, so many promos, it's almost hard to remember. As we were preparing for the show, we were kind of commenting on some of these promos, and we have to kind of go back and go, no, which one was that? There's so many of them. I know that on Dune Newsnet, there was posted an article specifically about the behind the scenes with Jason Momoa, where he's actually on the set. It looks like they're near in Jordan or Abu Dhabi, and And he's just so, if I didn't think Jason was already such a huge fan of Denis and of this project, when you see this promo video, he's just over the moon about this. And it's kind of interesting to see an A-list actor like Jason Momoa almost act like a kid, being so excited to be on the set on this film. And I don't know, maybe you guys remember, I don't know that Jason was a Dune fan before. I'm not sure he was even familiar with the story like some of the other actors may have been. But his level of excitement and enthusiasm and energy, I don't know, Marcus, does that come out in Duncan, Idaho? Does that enthusiasm translate onto the screen with him?
Yeah, I mean that was definitely one of his strong performances. I think he definitely appears more in this adaptation than any of the earlier adaptations, and yeah, I felt like his presence was really strong on the screen. Got to see, like we saw the clip already with him talking with Timothée Chalamet, and that gets expanded on further. But yeah, like I just love seeing like how authentic he seems in that clip, because he also appeared on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. I'm not sure if it was pre-recorded because like it was a virtual appearance, but there he was talking about like how he actually got the part, and apparently like he got called up. He didn't know anything about it, and Denis apparently had him in mind for the role and was pitching him the idea of Dune. So it's possible, yeah, that he, you know, like maybe he wasn't a big fan or he didn't know as much about it, but clearly like yeah, Villeneuve had him in mind for that role specifically. Johnny, looking at that behind the scenes clip, what was your reaction?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I love Jason Momoa. He has his own YouTube channel, and so he really loves documenting. He always has someone with a camera with him. So he's had a couple previous to this where he's talked about Dune, or I remember even when they were filming, I think he had some a couple years ago when they were out in Jordan. So that was really cool. It's kind of like full circle now. And but yeah, his enthusiasm. I mean, we've known at this point how much he loves Denis and how much he loves the fact that he got to make this movie, and he would have done it for free probably if he could have. But he even says, he has a funny line in the video where he says, I just want to get coffee for the guy. So he really does like really respect Denis, and he goes into a lot of detail about him as a filmmaker and like how he feels on set with him in the collaborative process, whether it's, you know, action, you know, coordinating like fight scenes and stuff, or just simple dialogue scenes. And then of course getting to see the sets and the costumes and the props. I thought that was really awesome. The locations, as Garin pointed out. Yeah, it's just great. Some really cool images just of him on set and with Denis and Denis himself, that we just haven't seen before. And I think that's great that an actor is kind of taking someone actually in the movie is taking that kind of initiative to document it and show how special the whole experience was. So that was really great. I pulled some quotes that I really liked from it, some pictures, and posted about that. And yeah, it's just great. We're not going to be going into any spoilers, but I really love Jason Momoa, and I love that he's playing Duncan, Idaho. And I can't wait to see him in the entire movie. As you said, he's going to be in this one more than any previous adaptation. So I think he's definitely going to be a fan favorite. I think he's going to be one of the things people will come out of the movie talking about probably.
You know, Duncan's my favorite character, and we've talked about before when Jason was cast. I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. But seeing that little documentary, you know, Jason Momoa's vlog, it was a beautiful, like, little love letter to filmmaking, especially to Denis, you know, and just to have good fun. I think I love seeing Jason on set with his guitar just in the middle of filming, like. But it looks, once again, they had a great time, and everyone that worked on this film respects Denis. You know, if we see actors and actresses keep mentioning Denis, there has to be a reason why. And I think Denis brought out the best performance of all these characters, you know. So I love his little vlogs. I wish he would do that for more movies. I think a big reason why Jason is not on the press circuits right now is because I think they're working on Aquaman 2. Yeah. And I think that's why he can't do like all the late night shows in person.
Yeah.
And Xiaomi is officially Wonka. That hit the internet the other day.
Well, what stood out to me, like, and that's the title that I gave the article when we covered this on the website. The article written by James was that this clip, it just shows passion. And like if you look at Jason Momoa, like his enthusiasm, his excitement to be involved here, and you also see the same thing coming from Denis Villeneuve, like. That scene, just like love to see that raw emotion. Like, of course, we had to censor it for the site, but when he's just like, shouting on the like and looking at the view of the desert, you're like just, he's just in amazement, and like he goes and gives Denis a hug. I mean, it's just really touching, and I think that's important. Like, just going beyond Dune for a second. I mean, I think having that passion in like anything you're doing, I think it's so key. I think it can carry you so far, like whether you're talking about achievement or other things. I think just like having that with you, it's so important. And I think it's really important for people to find that passion and like really channel it into something that they enjoy doing.
Hey Marcus, there was another promo or a behind the scenes, and I forget who the executive director or executive producer was, and he was talking about how at the film, at the set on Jordan, they had an international cast. They had a lot of crew from local crew from Jordan, and how he mentions that everyone just came together. There was just this harmonious experience that everyone had making this film. And I personally would chalk that up to Denis himself, because I think his personality just engenders that kind of cooperative atmosphere for a production crew. But you match the excitement and the passion of these actors like Jason with the right personality in Denis, and then this larger, greater cast of production and actors and supporting actors, and everyone is sort of hitting it on all cylinders. I'd like to believe that's one of the reasons this is working. You've got all the elements, in harmony.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, Garin, specifically, I think there's the big Entertainment Weekly cover story that just came out today. And really the focus of the article was kind of talk to a lot of the cast, pretty much all the main cast, and just about their experience on the movie and working with Denis and working with each other and like the family atmosphere. And that was something that they just repeated over and over and over again. And Oscar Isaac said, specifically, like it comes from the top. And so that's Denis, of course. And just the environment he creates and like how he is as a collaborator and, and all the different roles that he has in this movie, both official and unofficial. I think that, that's definitely a huge part. And when when you have people, so many different people that are just like so crazy talented in one project, and they all are kind of like saying along the same thing, and but in their own different way and with their own experience. I mean, the way Jason Momoa talks about Denis and Dune is like very different from like Rebecca Ferguson or Oscar Isaac or Sharon Duncan Brewster, but it all has that same energy and vibe to it. And I think that's like the most telling thing and very promising, not only for this movie, but hopefully for the future as well.
That was an Entertainment Weekly cover story. I thought it was the new Gap catalog. I'm sorry. I thought it was fall time on Arrakis and winter time fashion on Caladan. But honestly, it's Denis. Like, if you have someone that supports your team and a good team lead, and that's what Denis is. He's their leader. He's the Wedge Antilles of this X-Wing unit. And you see that if people work and respect their leader, then they'll work harder. I always say, happy employees, happy workers. And that's at the end of the day, let's face it, Denis is the boss. I mean, he might be the manager because Warner Brothers is the boss, right? But you got these employees that need to work with him. And if he shows them respect, they'll show him respect. I think Denis is just an all-around giant teddy bear. He's a Canadian polar bear.
when you hear how he got people together, it seems like he had a lot of these people in mind, or like he had a plan and vision for what type of people he was looking for, and he definitely put a great team together. You can see it, and I love seeing that the interview, like the video that they had with the Entertainment Weekly story, and you definitely feel that, like, you know, they all get along, they all enjoyed working with each other.
I also want to mention one of my favorite spots, because everybody knows I'm such an Ornithopter fan, but there was a TV spot called Always, where Liet Kynes is answering the question, you know, do the worms always come? They always do. And I just thought this was, I was laying in bed and I just showed my wife this promo, and it was like, this is the coolest thing. And what I like about it is it almost has kind of this World War II, you know, the fighters are getting, you know, charged up and ready to go out and fight. And it almost just harkened back to, like, you know, X-Wing fighter sort of stuff, or even like World War II, you know, fighter planes. And I just love that we're marrying these really good performances, this really powerful story, with just downright cool imagery like that promo. I just think, and okay, so I'm just gonna have to ask Marcus. Here we go. I feel like you're the emperor and I'm approaching the throne to ask the question, but is the Ornithopter, does it get its due on screen? Because that's the best design that I've ever seen.
Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, the Ornithopters really stood out. I mean, like, everything that had to do with the sets and the vehicles, the locations, because we're not only in Arrakis, we get to see a lot of Caladan, we get to see a lot of some other locations as well. But when you talk about the vehicles, those Ornithopters, as I've mentioned before, like, these are going to be iconic. You know, I can see for the next years, as, you know, the Dune movies are coming out, this is going to be like one of the really recognizable elements. And the really cool thing is that there were different Ornithopter models. So you had, like, the ones that the Atreides were using. You had the ones that the Harkonnens were using, which were more like the attack Ornithopters. And then you had the one that Paul and Jessica were using when they made their getaway. So yeah, it really seems that they went all out to recreate like that. These are these like ubiquitous vehicles in the Dune universe, and there's like multiple variations of them, and they're really important. And like the style with the dragonfly wings, like, we really got a lot to see of that, and in several tense moments as well.
Okay, good. Say no more. But I just want to know that really, because I think that promo is trying to actually promote kind of the Dune tech. You know, it's like there's going to be an exciting experience of this new futuristic vehicle stuff, you know. So yeah, anyway, that was one of my favorites of the week.
I love that, hearing that there's 3 different design. And, you know, when I read it, I always thought the Harkonnen and the Atreides version were slightly different. So that right there already makes me happy. And yes, when I saw that spot, I was like, I wonder who's excited about this, who's giving it 1 million views just by themselves.
Yeah, Garin, I was thinking the same thing. Like, with that one spot in particular, it gave me, funny enough, it gave me like Top Gun vibes.
Yeah,
was the one.
I was thinking
the thing I
Top
thought
Gun.
of. Yeah, because, and who knows, Marcus would obviously know. Not who knows, Marcus knows. In the actual movie, I would imagine it. You know, I don't know how it's presented, or the sound and the music and everything when all this is going on, but like, because you have like the ground crew out there by the Ornithopters. Like, it's not just the actors getting in on their own and like that's it. There's, like, you know, probably some tower somewhere where they're like, oh, we have this many Thopters in there, someone's coming to land, all that. But like, yeah, this, even just the sound of the wings like going back and extending, and like the windows opening and closing, like, it's just, yeah, I can't wait. Like, this, and the sound design and the effects in particular really stood out to me as well. And yeah, just, it was more than I was expecting. There's even a shot, I don't know if this is from the same spot or not, but there was another thing that I saw in the last week where they take off, like they take off together, almost like like Black Hawk Down. It reminded me of that. Like, they just all lift up together. And then there's a shot of them in the desert as well. Like, because they even talked about, I can't remember if this was in, it might have been one of the cinematography magazines, articles that came out lately. It was talking about how they had helicopters in the desert and they were filming like helicopter to helicopter. So they would be having helicopters, like a fleet of them, and then they would have a camera copter that would record, and then later on they replaced the actual helicopters with the ornithopters. So it's like all like realistic as it would have to be in real life if you were actually going to film it. But there is a shot where it's helicopter to helicopter, and there's like a row of thopters, and they're going across the desert. It just felt very like, those little details make it feel so much more real. And so I'm getting some more excitement from Garin because he's so buzzed about these ornithopters, but they are very, very cool. Like, they are iconic, at least in science fiction. So now that they're coming to the big screen in such a big way, that's absolutely one of the things I think people are going to be thinking about or talking about afterward.
At least one or two of you have mentioned this before, but that's another of the reasons that you probably do want to experience this first on the big screen, like if it's possible, because like the ornithopters, there are certain scenes where you see, these, for example, the 3 ornithopters going across the desert, or you see like some in flight, and like of course on the big screen, like you see like every single detail, like, and you see the vastness that's beyond that. I'm sure like on a small screen, you'll still enjoy it, but you're not like, just because of the size, you're not like seeing everything. So yeah, I think from that perspective, I can imagine that the like seeing in theaters, you're getting more out of those, at least the grander scale scenes as well. Let's actually go to our last story for today, which is the box office updates. So let me actually go over to you, Johnny. So like the last time we discussed this, Dune had crossed 100 million after its third weekend, and it hasn't premiered in any additional countries, but it's kept going. So what's the big news out of as of last weekend, the fourth weekend?
Yeah, well, the main news is that it's continuing to make money, even despite, as we've mentioned in the past, movies like Venom or No Time to Die coming out. The holds that it's having week in and weekend are really impressive. Again, with the competition, with it being out for so long, and also to consider, as you mentioned, as far as the overall gross and what it's bringing in, there haven't been any new markets. It's been what it's been for about 2.5 weeks now, I think. So continuing to just get repeat viewers, to get new viewers, that's again just showing how strong the word of mouth is in some of these markets where it is continuing to bring in those numbers. And right now, I believe the global total is sitting at around 117 million, I think. So, by the time it comes out here, 130, and we're also getting new markets this week as well. So it's going to continue to get money in the markets it's already in, but we're going to have additional markets, pretty big ones, especially Japan is going to be the primary one. I believe that's on the 15th. So this coming weekend is going to be the biggest update in the last 2 or 3 weeks as far as the box office goes. That'll be very interesting to see. That could put them over 130, getting close to 140, 150 million worldwide. So yeah, by the time it comes out here next week, they'll be in a very promising position. By the end of opening weekend here in the US, as well as China and everywhere else, it'll be well over 200 million. So yeah, all things pointing to good. And also we did get a little bit of information as well with regards to US sales. Finally, I don't know, people had been talking about this. The news, the first thing that came out yesterday, which is what I had mentioned and tweeted about, that was that the pre-sales, at least in the US, had been doing really well. As far as the pandemic, which is, the last year and a half at this point, plus it has the best of any movie that is not in the MCU. So Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and now Eternals, because Eternals tickets have been on sale. Those are the 3 biggest. And then fourth is Dune. And we know Eternals in its first 24 hours in the US sold $2.6 million worth of tickets. Black Widow was second at 2 million. Shang-Chi was at 1.4 million. So I would assume Dune in its first 24 hours did about 1 million or so in ticket sales in the US. And as of now, as of yesterday, as a matter of fact, as of this recording, it's at around over 3.5 million in sales. So really strong there, really strong, particularly in IMAX and other large formats like Dolby and Real D, 3D, all these other things. So that's really promising. And as of right now, it's poised to be pretty easily the biggest Warner Brothers opening weekend domestically of the entire year and last year, of course, because the pandemic didn't really have much of anything. And really biggest going back to Joker, which came out over 2 years ago now, October 2019. That movie, of course, biggest movie opening ever in October, close to 100 million. I think it was like 96 million. Dune is not going to be anywhere close to that, but it'll be in the neighborhood of, 30s, 40s, potentially higher, depending how the next, because 9 to 8 days still left to go. It's going to be ramping up because the closer you get to the release, the more people buy tickets for pre-sale. So this time next week, we'll have an even better idea of what opening weekend's going to look like. And fingers crossed, no matter what people say, no matter what the final projections are, they'll be above that. And of course, HBO Max numbers are going to be figured in as well. We mentioned at the top of the show, they will be streaming on Thursday. So extra 6 hours for people to hop on if they want to, or throw it on, leave it on the background, whatever. To make the powers that be happy about their streaming service performance. But yeah, all around very promising, continues to be promising, but no major advancements until this coming week. Next episode will be interesting to look at then.
And looking at other recent domestic releases, so of course we had Venom, which completely blew away its first weekend, and then you had like No Time to Die, which did well, but was like, I guess, under projections. Where do you think Dune will be closer to?
Well, it's definitely going to be, I tweeted this yesterday as well, as I think that, Bond, I'm not going to say Bond underperformed. I don't think that their projections were very realistic, or I don't know why they went so high with it. People were like, oh, it's gonna top Venom. It's gonna be close to 100 million. It could be 100 million. Bond, there had been, there were a number of reasons to doubt why Bond was. One of the primary factors with the Bond was that the audience for Bond is typically older, like considerably older, because it is such a long-standing franchise. It is a more mature franchise compared to something like Star Wars or the MCU. We're in a pandemic. A lot of older folks don't want to go to the movie theater right now. The vast majority of the time that I've been in the last year, it's been younger people. It's been teenagers, people in their 20s and 30s, younger families, things like that. So that makes sense that Venom would be doing way better than No Time to Die because they're largely different. But 56 million, again, I think it's still a solid number. Where Dune right now, it's sitting, I think the first projection we got like a week or two ago was right around mid 30s, 35 million to 40 into the 40s. I think that's still a solid basis, I think, for the time being. But I do think, again, this is a movie people have been underestimating a lot and kind of being, conservative with projections and numbers. And there is some basis for that. Dune not necessarily being the reason, more so the HBO Max factor. They're going to want to underscore it because they have kind of gone overboard with maybe like the Suicide Squad, for instance. That one underperformed, as well as In the Heights, some other big Warner Brothers movies this year. I think they're going to be so conservative and they're going to be like, oh, we've been doubting Dune all along. We don't really want to go and say, oh, well, it's going to be doing this well now. I think that it's going to come in above projections. I would say at this point, 35 million, I think, is pretty much in the bag, I think. And 35 million is, I think, the marker, because 34 million was Godzilla versus Kong in its 4-day opening weekend in the US, which is the biggest since Joker. It's the biggest of the year for them. I think that would be a solid victory in that department. But I really do think it's going to be at least in the 40s. If all things go perfectly according to plan, it overperforms every single day, overperforms with pre-sales. I could see it being upward of into a 50 range. And I said yesterday, the tweet I was talking about was, I could see it being closer to Bond than people expected. Last week people were like, oh, well, Bond could beat Venom. Bond's going to be very close to Venom. It could be the biggest Bond opening ever. I never really saw that happening. Now going into next week, and as of this week, it's kind of like, well, could Dune be close to Bond? Could it be big, in that range? And I think it very well could be. How big it can go remains to be seen. But the numbers so far, again, are promising.
I think that there's any chance that the HBO Max factor might affect people going the second and third time to a theater.
Yeah, so the answer is definitely, because that's what we've seen with all of the day and date releases, particularly for HBO Max. this year, the weekend drop-offs for the second weekend have been like brutal, way worse than they usually are. And that's because when you're talking about people going to the theater to repeat, in the past, if the movie's not on streaming, well, if you want to see the movie again, you have to go to the theater. You don't have another choice. Now you can just stay at home, watch it again, be like, oh, throw it on again. With Dune, though, I am optimistic that it will be one of the best, if not the best, like could easily be the best as far as the second weekend drop-off goes, for two reasons. One being there's no competition the second weekend, no real competition. It is going to be the only big IMAX film in theaters still in the second weekend, similar to how Bond is going to be this weekend. And so it's going to keep those large formats, as well as the fact it's PG-13. So it's going to be playing to wide audiences. It's an action adventure film. It's not a rated R horror film like Halloween Kills or Last Night in Soho or anything like that. It has the star power, has the effects, all those things that people want to go see. And also, I think it's going to be a film where I think people, if they do go see it in the theater and they do really like it, they will want to go see it again. They will want to go see it. Maybe if they see it in a normal theater, they're like, well, let me go and shelf for IMAX this time. Let me go out and see what that's like, see how different that is. Or people will see it in IMAX the first time and they'll be like, wow, that was like amazing. That's like one of the best theater experiences I've had, in years since the pandemic or whatever. I want to go again, or I want to take my friend, or I want to go with, I tell a friend that that they should go see it, and then they end up going to see it and I go see it with them. There's a lot of reasons I think that'll be, but those are like the two primary ones I can think of. And so, yeah, I think there's reason for optimism in that department, but I think there's no question that is going to affect it. To what degree, I think not as much. And part of this also to consider is that the word of mouth has been very strong in the markets where it has been released. Now, granted, they don't have the HBO Max option in the markets where it's been released, but because that shows the word of mouth is so strong and people do like it so much, and they are, maybe telling other people about it, and then other people go see it. That is reason for optimism with regards to how the word of mouth carries into the US. The US is its own beast in its own market, but I do think that it's in a better position than pretty much any other movie that has come out from Warner Brothers and with the HBO Max deal so far.
People will eventually give the word of mouth, and as more stuff opens up and people feel more comfortable of going out. I know I'm very much a hermit like Obi-Wan, but I know I would be the first one to be like, hey, friend, have you heard of Dune? Do you want to go see it? Because I will be more than happy to see it with you. Like I said, just randomly word of mouth. I'm going with a couple of team members on Friday morning after I see a Thursday night 6:00 showing. I think my excitement has got them excited about it. It's interesting because at work, like one of the leads the other day was like, hey, I saw the trailer for Dune. It looks pretty good. Like, you're going to go see it, right? I'm like, yeah, you should go see it. You should see it. And if you like it, you should watch it a second time or watch it on HBO Max. I'm encouraging people that I know that are not big movie theater fans or, like going out. I'm like, hey, do you have HBO Max? It's on there. Watch it on there. Just as long as you watch it, the numbers will show. And I think word of mouth will help this movie.
And Simon, you also point out a good thing too, is people talking about people going out and talking about the pandemic itself. Coming into like during the summertime, it was really when Black Widow came out, and then the Suicide Squad came out shortly thereafter in like late July, early August, then through August. That was when Delta was really like kicking off and people were freaking out, and masks were really like, okay, people need to start wearing these and all these other things. So that was a big factor, like for the Suicide Squad, for example. That was a huge film for Warner Brothers, and that movie suffered immensely, I think, for again a couple of reasons, but the timing of that release was unfortunate in the way that happened. Now, I mean, look at the numbers for Venom. I mean, look at the numbers for Venom. Look at the numbers for No Time to Die, which are again exceedingly good. People are comfortable with going back to the theater. You just have to show something that they are interested in and that they think that they might like. And if the word of mouth is a huge thing. If people are saying it's good, if they see TV spots where the reviews are just glowing and Rotten Tomatoes, it's certified on Rotten Tomatoes now, everyone. Then all these elements, they might give that little push. Hey, I am going to go see this in the theater. I am going to go see it in IMAX. I've seen so many people on Twitter say, I haven't been to an IMAX movie in years, but I'm going to go see this in IMAX. I can't wait to see Dune in IMAX. I haven't been this excited since Endgame to see a movie in theaters. This is my first time going back to the cinema, since the start of the pandemic. So many different things. I think, to all what Garin's saying, what Simon is saying, all these things add up, and I think is again a reason for optimism in general.
That's all for Dune Talk this week. So we already gave our first impressions, but really excited to have
wait a second. One of us gives our first impression.
Let's be clear about this.
Yeah, there's 4 of us. There's 3 of us that only dream of Arrakis right now. One of us has experienced Arrakis. Just saying.
Thanks, Simon, for sticking up for the rest of us.
No problem. Teamwork.
Thanks a lot, Simon. So so looking forward to discuss with all of us once we've seen the movie and can go in all the details. So as mentioned, we have special episodes coming up. So before we go for today, let's start with you, Simon. Where can people find you?
I'm available on the internet at SDowdy, on Twitter, Insta. I'm still trying to challenge myself to post a picture every day on Instagram for 2021. Sorry if it's kind of lackluster, but I'm having fun with it.
Yes, everyone. Johnny Sobchak again. Thank you for supporting the show and watching. We are on the home stretch, literally almost here. 1 week to go. You can find me on Twitter, Johnny Sobchak, on all social media. Again, thanks for watching.
And this is Garin. You can find me on Twitter at Dune Companion. And we really are on the home stretch. And I just appreciate the people who interact with the channel, who interact with us, all of us on Twitter. It's good to know we've got Dune fans out there that are as excited as we are. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And this is Marcus Gabriel. And you can find me on DuneNewsNet.com and DuneNewsNet on Twitter and Instagram. Talk to you next week.
We hope you've enjoyed Dune Talk. Remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know when the next episode drops. Stay tuned to DuneNewsNet.com and add us to your social feeds. Be the first to hear breaking news and reviews.